Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Sarasvati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu me Sada. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Angum Langhayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Bande Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda Madhavam. Okay, let's read from verse number 32 and we will read to verse number 35. So let's go through this. Ye tvetadabhyasuyantaha nanutishtanti me matam sarvajnana vimudan sthan vidhi nashtana chetasaha sadrisham cheshtate swasyaha prakritirjnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigrahah kim karishyati indriyasyendriyasyarthe ragadveshau vyavasthitau tayornavashamagachet tau yasya paripanthinau shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushthitat swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. So here what we saw last time, Bhagavan Krishna says in verse number 30, he summarized his whole teaching. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa. Means you offer all of your actions to me. Nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigata jvaraha. So he says you offer all your actions from me. Nirashir means be without hope. Turn hope into faith. Nirmamaha, without any I and mine. Turn it into we. Yudhyasva, do your duty. Vigata jvaraha, without any disturbance or stress. Do it with absolute focus. Be in the now, be in the moment. And this can only happen when we are instruments of God. So he says, offer all of your actions unto me. Mai sarvani karmani. And he says, whoever does this, what happens is their minds eventually get purified and they are made ready for the path of Jnana Yoga, by which they are free from all of their sins. Then the question, Arjuna, then Lord Krishna also goes to say, but those who don't follow this, they go through these cycles of birth and death again and again. It means that they suffer. Those who don't follow what? Me matam in verse number 32, it doesn't mean just Lord Krishna's teaching. It means the teaching of purification. As we've seen, the Bhagavad Gita is a universal message. In nowhere does it say if you only follow this of Lord Krishna. It is really if you follow this purification process, and that can be done through bhakti, it can be done through Ashtanga yoga. Those are also fine. But it just so happened that in this chapter, we're speaking about karma yoga. So he is directly hinting to this, that those who don't follow this, a certain kind of purification process, such as karma yoga mentioned in this chapter, what happens is nashtan achetasaha. They are ruined. Why are they ruined? Because their minds are not prepared for knowledge then, and they keep coming back again and again and again. And so Arjuna says, my gosh, then why is it that people don't follow your teachings, Lord Krishna? It's as though Arjuna is kind of prompting in his mind, why is it that people don't follow your teachings? And Lord Krishna says in verse 33, Sadrisham cheshtate swasyaha prakritehe jnanavanati, which means that people who are wise, jnani or jnanavan in this verse doesn't mean someone who has knowledge of the truth. It just means somebody who's generally wise. Even someone who's generally wise, what happens is they are prompted by their prakriti, by their natural inclinations, by their swabhava. They're just prompted by it. They're prompted to be a certain way, to behave a certain way, to do a certain thing. And so, prakritim yanti bhutani. All beings follow their own nature, their prakriti. So therefore, what control can we do? And so Lord Krishna says all beings follow their prakriti. And Arjuna is thinking, wow, so does that mean that we have no control? Does this mean you said prakritim yanti bhutani, that all beings will just follow their nature, so there's no control? And Lord Krishna says there is control. And the control lies in the raga dvesha. He says people are naturally prone to do certain things. Indriyasyarthe raga dvesha vyavastita. People are naturally prone to certain things. But he says, don't get caught up by your likes and dislikes. Raga dvesha are likes and dislikes. When it comes to doing our dharma, our duty, stay in it, do it, and don't get prompted by likes and dislikes. So if I have a natural disposition, let's say, to teach or to guide, I should not get caught up in any other likes and dislikes, any attractions or aversions in the world. I have to just stick to what my duty is, because if I get caught up in that, I will fall and I will fail. Similarly, somebody who has the duty then to manage a business, they should stick to that. That's their natural disposition. That's what they want to do. They shouldn't unnecessarily get caught up in too much pleasure in the world, because they will fall. So these likes and dislikes, they make us fall. So Bhagavan Krishna says the effort lies here. Everyone has their natural disposition, and that changes over time. It's not that we are stuck to one disposition our whole entire lives. We have different things that we want to do, different interests that we want to pursue, because we feel drawn to it, and that's okay. But the minute we get caught up in our likes and dislikes, what happens is it becomes our foe. It throws us off the path. So he says, don't get caught in that. And likes and dislikes are so incredible sometimes, so powerful sometimes, that he says in verse number 35, sometimes because of our likes and dislikes, we stray from our duties. We stray from our duties because we find that our duties are not that, glamorous, or not that cool looking. They don't look that amazing, but other people's duties kind of look really good. So let me try that and let me do that. And so because of these likes and dislikes for glamour, for prestige, for power, for money, because of these likes, these attractions for these things, we feel that we should sway from our duty and try something else. Like Arjuna felt that he should sway from his duty of being a Kshatriya and fighting the war to do something else, to ask for bhiksha and run away and be quiet. And so when we have such attractions and aversions in life, they make us sway here and there. And so the best way to get away from the pull of likes and dislikes is to perform one's swadharma. Stick to one's swadharma. And as I said, swadharma can change at a certain time and place. And just to reiterate, Gurudev says, you know, what these are. This swadharma is the type of vasanas that one discovers in one's own mind. So one should use these vasanas and exhaust them selflessly instead of getting pushed and pulled by likes and dislikes. Okay. So now he says all of this to Arjuna, and Arjuna's, you know, he's thinking about it. And he says, you know, Bhagavan Krishna, I think that there's something deeper. You asked me to perform my swadharma. And as we, you know, somebody just asked a question, I don't know what my natural inclination is. I don't know what my swadharma is. And, you know, that only comes with real introspection. And I can send you all, you know, some things to think about, but that to determine one's swadharma, one has to really just sit with themselves and see what is it that naturally fuels them, that they naturally love to do, and that they could just get lost doing it. And they feel that this could be their best way to serve the world. Swadharma doesn't have to be a profession. Nurturing can be swadharma. Traveling, wandering can be swadharma. Silence can be swadharma. It's not a career. It is your unique field of expression, which brings you utter joy that you and I must exhaust in a selfless manner. That's what it is. It's our field of expression, our field of evolution. And when we discover that, we find so much fulfillment acting in this world. So it's not a career, it's not a talent, it's not an ability, it's our natural expression. And so to find that, we have to sit, we have to think, we have to introspect. I'll just share this with you before I go to Arjuna's question. Years ago, we did a Swadharma workshop when I was, I don't know, some 10 years ago, I think. 10 years ago, not even 10, I think it was 12 or 13 years ago. It was in 2010, I remember. We did a Swadharma workshop. And in this workshop, the moderator was telling us, now you kind of look at and visualize how you want to be years from now. And you draw that picture. Don't think about anything. Don't think about how am I going to support myself? What kind of security will I have? Just freely draw. And I remember at that point in time, I remember exactly the picture that I drew. And it was just free flow. You know, you just draw and no inhibitions. And that gave me so much clarity. And he said, just draw what you think you're going to be engaged in. And I drew a woman in a sari. I don't know how I thought of a sari back then. I didn't ever think that I would be wearing a sari. But I drew a woman in a sari. And I drew something that said, you know, sharing knowledge. And I didn't understand at that time, but that just came out, you know. But years later, when I look at that exercise, I find how powerful that really was, that I still remember that picture and I still remember what he said. And I still remember who that moderator is. So these exercises are really powerful, especially if we take them seriously and just take time to think. So that is called the Swadharma. That's called Swadharma. So and when one finds it, it's really, really the most fulfilling thing in this world. Of course, the most fulfilling thing out of this world is Brahman, and nothing can compare to that. But in this world, if we have to live a worldly life, and if we're not able to understand or comprehend Brahman, then the next best thing is to live one's Swadharma. That's the next best thing. The first best thing is to realize God, to revel in God, abide in God, be in God. That's the best thing. We cannot do that, then live our Swadharma. That is life. There's nothing else to life. Gurudev says here, I'll just add, he says to act according to one's own taste, inborn and natural, is the only known method of living in peace and joy, in success and satisfaction. To act against the grain of one's own vasanas would be acting in terms of paradharma, and that is fraught with danger and is very well known. So this is what we have to find. We have to find our own unique field of expression and put forth all of our energy to serve the world in a selfless way in that field. So now Arjuna says, okay, Bhagavan Krishna, you explained to me about Swadharma and that I should live my Swadharma and not get pulled by these likes and dislikes and attractions and aversions. And I should just stick to my dharma, do my dharma. But I think, Lord Krishna, there's something deeper than raga dvesha, than likes and dislikes. I think there's something deeper. Because, you know, when I try to do my duty, even if I don't want to do something wrong, even if I don't want to do something wrong, even if I don't want to go off the path, still I'm pushed, as if though I'm pushed by something, propelled by something to do something wrong that I don't want to do. What is that force? I know what I have to do, but something is forcing me to do something I shouldn't do. And this is Arjuna's question. We are now on verse number 36. Okay. Arjuna uvacha.
Arjuna uvacha.
Atha kena prayuktoyam.
Atha kena prayuktoyam.
Papam charati purushaha.
Papam charati purushaha.
Anichannapi varshneya.
Anichannapi varshneya.
Baladiva niyojitaha.
Baladiva niyojitaha.
Arjuna uvacha. Atha kena prayuktoyam. Papam charati purushaha. Anichannapi varshneya. Baladiva niyojitaha. So he says, Arjuna says, Atha, now, he says, Kena prayuktaha. Prayukta, impelled, Kena, by what? By what? Impelled by what? Ayam purushaha, this person, this being, papam charati, commits sin, commits papa. Anichannapi, even if one doesn't want to do it, O Varshneya, O Sri Krishna, Anichanapi, even if one doesn't want to do it, Paladiva niyojitaha. It's as though niyojitaha, they're made to do it, palad, by force. So Arjuna said, impelled by what does man commit sin, though against his wishes? O Varshneya, constrained as it were by force. So let's just see this verse. Arjuna calls Lord Krishna Varshneya. Varshneya. Varshneya means somebody who belongs to the Vrishni family, Vrishni Kula. So it's as though he's bringing a sense of closeness with Lord Krishna and saying, Varshneya, we're from the same family, we're from the same family, because obviously they're related through Kunti. And so he says, we are related, we are from the same family, and you know me. I want to do what's right. But what is the force which makes us do what's wrong? So what is papa? Papa here comes from the root pa, which means to protect. So papa comes from the root to protect. Why? Because papa or sin protects us from, it protects our ignorance. It protects our ignorance. It protects our ignorance. It protects our attachments. It protects all of that. That's what sin does. That's why it's called papa. And punya comes from the root pu. Pu means pavane, to purify. That which purifies us is punya. So in short, if I want to know what is this sin, sin is anything that takes us away from the truth, from the path, from God. Anything that takes us away from evolution, that is sin. Anything that takes us towards evolution, that is what we call punya or merit. So sometimes, in fact, all of us pretty much know what we should do and what we shouldn't do. For the most part, with some things we might be a little confused. For the most part, we know what we should do, what we shouldn't do. But then there's this force that's just making us do something else. There's this force that's making us stray away from our dharma, from our duty. Anikchanapi, even if we don't want to stray, even if we don't want to do something wrong, even if we don't want to give in to temptation, even if we know I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do this, but it's so powerful. It's just making me do it. What is that? What is that? And before we go to Lord Krishna's answer, first we'll look at this word anichan. Anichan means though we don't want to do it, but actually something inside us wants to do it. That's the reason we do it. In our selves, Gurudev explains this so well. We have four personalities. One is the physical personality. One is the emotional personality. One is the intellectual personality. And one is the spiritual personality. So the physical personality in us, obviously, is the body and the senses. The emotional personality in us is our mind, our emotions, our feelings. The intellectual personality is our intellect, our source of reason and judgment. And the spiritual personality is the source of the scriptures. Whatever teachings we've received, whatever we've learned, that becomes our spiritual personality. And to those people in whom all of these four are aligned, then life is very easy. They can move very quickly in the path. But in those people where these are against each other, there's a conflict, there's always a push and a pull. And I'll give you a very simple example of a chocolate cake. And I remember I used this to explain this to the Bal Vihar children. That when you see a sweet or a piece of cake, your physical personality might want to say, wow, that's good. I want to eat it. And your mental personality, emotional personality might say, it's going to feel really good if I eat it. But the intellectual personality might say, I shouldn't eat it because I already had enough to eat. I don't need it. And the spiritual personality might say, I shouldn't give in to temptation. I should practice Dhamma. I should have self-control. So what happens constantly is our personalities are in conflict. They're in conflict. And this happens every day, all the time. There's a conflict. And it's usually between the mind and the intellect. They can't agree with each other. There's a conflict. So one part of me wants to do it. The other part of me is saying, no, don't do it. I shouldn't do it. I shouldn't do it. But one part says, yeah, I want to do it. And so this anicca means even though I don't want, means one part of me doesn't want. One part of me doesn't want. And that part which doesn't want is so weak, but the part that wants is so strong. And that's why I am pulled helplessly. It's not anybody else's fault. It's in us. What's happening is in us. There's this conflict. And so whenever there's this conflict, I will be pulled helplessly by my own passions, not anybody else's. And so just to add to this, that kind of personality, which is, in line, in harmony, physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual, that is called Ayodhya. That's called Ayodhya. Yuddha means a place where there's conflict and war. Ayodhya means there's no war. So that place where all the personalities are aligned, that's called Ayodhya. And only in that dwells Sri Rama. But if there's conflicts within the personality, then what happens? We won't have Sri Rama, we will only have drama. We will only have drama. And this is the drama that Arjuna is experiencing. He's having these conflicts in his personality, just like us. And so Sri Krishna says, okay, I'm going to explain everything to you. I'm going to explain what is this force in you that's propelling you. And so this is a very famous verse number 37. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Kama esha krodha esha.
Kama esha krodha esha.
Rajo guna samudbhavaha.
Rajo guna samudbhavaha.
Mahashano mahapapma.
Mahashano mahapapma.
Vidhyenam iha vairinam.
Vidyeham iha vairinam.
Kama esha krodha esha. Rajo guna samudbhavaha. Mahashano mahapapma. Vidhyenam iha vairinam. So Bhagavan Krishna says, Kama esha, it's desire. Krodha esha, it is anger. Rajoguna samudbhavaha, it is born of Rajoguna, or it's a Rajasic temperament. Mahashanaha, it's all devouring. Mahapapma, all sinful. Vidhi, know this. Enam, know this. Iha, here, to be Vairinam, the foe. The Blessed Lord said, it is desire, it is anger, born of the active, all devouring, all sinful. Know this as the foe here in this world. So he says it's desire, it's anger. So what does he mean? So first let's see, what is this desire? So this desire is actually nothing but a manifestation of raga, of that like. Raga is something so light, I like something, I don't like something. We say it so lightly every day. I like this, I don't like this. I like that, I don't like that. But that like, when it becomes strong, it becomes a want. So that like, when it's strengthened, it becomes a want, kama. And that's why so much emphasis was given on don't be swayed by likes and dislikes. Because when that like becomes a want, then I am helplessly pulled by it. I am pulled by it. When we have a desire, what does it tell us? What does it tell us in our mind? It tells us a few things. Number one, it tells me already that I forgot my true nature. When we have desire for the world, I forgot my true nature. Because if I knew who I was, if I knew that I was all complete, all pure, all existence, consciousness, bliss, then I wouldn't become a desirer. I wouldn't take the position of a desirer. So I forgot who I was, who I am. Desire also tells us that we forget what we are. We possess. We are the seat of bliss. We are the seat of ananda. And we only desire those things which we don't have. Some of us desire a bigger house because we don't have that. We desire more money because we don't have it. We desire grandchildren because we don't have them. So we only desire what we don't have. And remember, all the things that we're desiring are nothing but joy. They're nothing but joy. We're not really desiring a grandchild. We want that joy we will feel when we have a big family picture with grandchildren. We're not desiring money. We want the joy of the comfort derived from having so much money. We don't desire name, fame. We want the appreciation, the joy that we will feel from having it. We want that joy. We don't want anything else, actually. We want that joy. And so this desiring the world, again, makes me think that I don't have something. I lack something. I'm missing something. When actually, I am already the seat of everything I need. Desiring for the world, number 3, makes me think that the world is real. It makes me give reality to the world. I've given the world so much reality that I think that, oh, it is really something there, something existing apart from me that can fulfill me. So all of these things come into our mind when we desire. They come into play. We forget our real nature. We forget we are the seat of bliss. We think that the world is real. And we think, number 4, that the world can make us happy. That's the biggest lie. Everybody makes money off of that the world can make us happy. But it's the biggest lie. And so because I forget all of these things, I start to desire. Right? I have these likes and dislikes. The like becomes so crystallized into a want, and then I desire. I desire something. And when I desire something, that's it. I'm gone off track. I have forgotten my real nature. And he says here that that desire is, it's not just desire, it's also anger. That desire is also anger. Why does he say it's also anger? Because if that raga, if that like transforms to a want, that raga transforms to a kama, that dvesha transforms to krodha. When I don't like something, or I don't like someone, I don't like a certain experience, and it happens to me, I become angry. I become so angry. So I don't want something, I don't like it, but it happens to me, I become angry. Or I want something, but it doesn't happen to me, I become angry. So that desire is also anger. That desire is also anger. And don't think it stops there. I mean, this desire is a part of a gang. It's a part of the 6 gangsters. When you get one, the whole gang comes together. You can't have them separately. What is this 6 gangsters that we have? We start with kama, desire for the world. If I get what I desire, what happens? Lobha, I become greedy. I want more. I got something that I desired. I want more because it's not enough for me. I want more and more and more. And when I get more and more, what happens? Mada, I become proud. I become proud because, oh, look at me. I desired something. I worked for it. I got so much. Now I'm better than everybody else. Mada. So that desire fulfilled leads to greed, leads to pride. And the desire not fulfilled, what happens? It leads to anger. I get so angry. I didn't get what I want. I'm so angry. And what happens when I'm angry? Moha. Moha means I become deluded. I lose my discriminative power. I don't know what's right, what's wrong. I say things I don't mean. I do things I don't mean. I completely lose it. And do you think we stop there? No. Then what else do we do? Matsarya. We become so jealous because somebody else got it. If I didn't get it, what does that mean? Somebody else got it. And to that somebody else, I feel so jealous. I'm so jealous of that person. So what happens then? That anger, it turned into delusion. And we saw this also in chapter 2, verse 62. That anger turned into delusion, and that anger brings about jealousy. So these are the 6 gangsters. Kama, desire, krodha, anger, lobha, greed, mada, pride, moha, delusion, matsarya, jealousy. 6 gangsters, they all come together. So this desire is no joke. It's no joke. We have to be so careful of it, so incredibly alert if it comes, because it brings its gang. And so now, Arjuna's thinking, okay, Bhagavan Krishna, you're telling me it's this desire, it's this light which has been crystallized into desire, but how do I handle it? How do I handle it? Arjuna is a Kshatriya. So he would have studied Niti Shastra. And in Niti Shastra, there are 4 guidelines to handling an enemy. What is that? The first one is called Sama. Sama means you try to speak to that enemy, try to negotiate. If that doesn't work, you go to Dana. Dana means you try to give it, give a little bit. And hopefully that works. But if that doesn't work, then Bheda. Bheda means you create a difference in the enemy camp. You sort of put something in there to create a difference among their people and maybe even bring some people to your side. And if that doesn't work, Danda, then you fight and you destroy the enemy. So Arjuna is thinking, well, in terms of politics, this is the procedure we follow. So shouldn't I follow the same with desire? And Bhagavan Krishna said, no way. Why? Sama. So you're trying to say, okay, maybe I can negotiate with desire. No, mahapapma. Mahapapma means desire is all sinful. It's all sinful. It's just gonna take you away. Whenever we have a desire for the world, it takes us away from our desire for God. It's a fact. We are on this path of self-evolution, of the realization of truth. And whenever there's a desire for the world that comes, it takes away our time, it takes away our attention. It's a big distraction. It's a big distraction. It takes us away. And it takes a while for us to come back. It's not that easy. It takes us away, and it takes a while for us to come back. So Mahapapma means it's going to take us away. It's going to distract us. So don't even try negotiating with it. Desire has a knack for that. It'll take you away. So then Arjuna says, okay, dana, maybe I can give in to desire. Give in a little bit, just a little bit is no harm. So Bhagavan Krishna says, Mahashanaha, don't even try. It's all devouring. Desire is, you don't exhaust desire by giving into it. When we give into desire, it will grow and grow and grow into an uncontrollable force. And we'll see that verse of Srimad Bhagavatam when we take up verse 39. But the more we give into desire, it will grow and grow and grow. Mahashana. So don't even think that, just a little bit. Before you know it, you're taken over by that desire. Yeah. It's like when someone takes over our house, right? We have a guest that comes, a couple of days, and that's really, really nice. But then before you know it, they're staying 1 month, for 1 month, and then that 1 month they've taken over everything, and you're like, how did this happen? Where did it go? Right? So Mahashana. Then Arjuna is thinking, okay, well, can I just sort of create a difference? Can I apply Bheda? He says, no, Rajoguna Samudbhavaha. This desire is born from Rajoguna. It cannot separate from Rajoguna. You cannot create a difference here. The only way we know to get rid of desire eventually is through knowledge, removal of ignorance. So he says you cannot create any difference here. And so therefore, danda, the only thing is vairinam. This desire is the enemy. You have to destroy it. There's no other way. Get rid of this desire. And Arjuna is just thinking, wow, that's crazy, and Arjuna wants to know more about this desire. What is it like? Can you give me an example of how this desire comes and how should I deal with it? So now in verse 38, Bhagavan Krishna gives us 3 beautiful examples of how this desire manifests in our lives so that we can catch it. So Arjuna just wants to catch it. Before we read verse 38, I know a question might come in your minds that, well, what about the desire for realization? That's also a desire. That is very true. And in fact, that is the desire to be nurtured, to be nourished, because that's the desire that gets rid of all desires. So when we speak here in the Bhagavad Gita, especially about these verses 37, 38, 39, what we really mean is these desires that take us away from the realization of truth. Those desires have to be given up. But those desires which take us to the truth, they have to be nurtured and nourished, because eventually that very desire will make us realize that we are the desireless self and that we actually do not need anything. And even deeper, that other than us, there is actually nothing else. So what are these examples of these worldly desires that just keep us in this world? So here we read verse number 38. Dhumena vriyate vahnihi.
Dhumena vriyate vannihi.
Yatha darsho malena cha.
Yatha darsho malena cha.
Yatholbena vrito garbhaha.
Yatolbena vrito garbhaha.
Tatha tenedamavritam.
Tatha tenedamavritam.
Dhumena vriyate vahnihi. Yatha darsho malena cha. Yatholbena vrito garbhaha. tatha tene damavritam. So here, he illustrates how desire is our foe, our vairina, and how it veils our discrimination. Tena idam avritam. Tena here means by this desire. Kamena idam. This knowledge avritam is enveloped, is covered. So by desire, our discriminative capacity, our knowledge in the intellect, it is covered, it is veiled. And how? He gives 3 examples. First one, dhumena avriyate vahnihi. Just as smoke, that fire, just as vahni, just fire is enveloped by smoke. So just as fire, vahnihi, is enveloped by dhuma. Dhuma means smoke. Just as adarsha means a mirror, is avriyate, is enveloped malena, by dust. Just as garbha, an embryo or fetus, avritaha, is enveloped by ulbena, by the womb. Here it really means that in the womb there's this inner membrane. I forget that it's amniya, I think it's called, that inner membrane that envelopes the fetus. That particular thing is ulbena. So as fire is enveloped by smoke, as mirror by dust, as embryo by the womb, so this wisdom or intellect is enveloped by that desire. So first, let's take a look at these desires and how we can categorize them, right? So the first category we're going to see with regard to desire is the expression of desire. So when we look at the expression of desire, it can come in 3 levels. One is called sukshmata, which means subtle, when the desire is still in vasana form. It's just still in vasana form. This is level 1. This is levels according to expression. We will see levels according to strength, levels according to guna also. This is levels according to expression. So as the vasana. Level 2 is sthula, means it's as a thought in the mind that has taken over the whole mind. It has taken over the entire mind, and the entire mind just has that desire and that desire. And ati sthula is when level 3, that desire now has become a concrete action, that one is indulging in it. And again, just to reiterate, these are desires that take us away from the realization of truth, that just throw us off guard. So if we see the first example, like fire and smoke. So when we see, fire and smoke, fire has 2 properties. Fire has the nature of heat and the nature of light. What happens with fire is that when smoke overpowers or envelopes fire, you cannot see the brightness of fire, but you can feel the heat. You can feel the heat. So when the desire is at the vasana level, the intellect is still there. It's, partially there. It's partially there because you can't see the fire, but you feel the heat. So in the same way, the brightness of the intellect is not there, but the intellect is still there. It's still there, but the brightness has gone for a moment because it's overpowered by a desire. So there are some desires that come to us just in the vasana form. They just come, and when they come, we should just let them go, right? But at that moment when they come and they overpower us, we cannot be bright or brilliant. Our intellect cannot function to the optimum level. It cannot. It's overpowered. This is still okay. This is still manageable. Then what happens is, like dust on a mirror, So dust on a mirror. Now imagine if we had a mirror that was full of dust, like full on of dust. You couldn't even see your reflection there. Could probably just see an outline. So here, the intellect is not functional. It's not functional. You can't even get a grasp of it because the whole intellect mind equipment has been pulled by that desire. So there are some desires that they just hold our mind, our entire mind they hold. And we cannot really think. They just grab it for that moment, you know? And so some desires are like that. And some desires are like the fetus in the, like that fetus in the womb, within that membrane, that in this part, that fetus is really stuck there. I mean, it cannot come out. It will only come out in time. And with these desires, one just is helplessly has to submit to it. You helplessly has to submit because you're stuck. You're completely stuck. You cannot move, cannot do anything. You can't move the way you want to. You are stuck. And so you just have to submit to it. So some desires are that kind, that they just become action. They just have to become action because we had no control over them. So one is at the vasana level, when it's just like smoke covering a fire, we still have a chance there. Second is it's at the thought level. It's taken over our minds, like the dust in the mirror. It's taken over the mind. Our intellect is captured for a moment, but there's still some semblance there. But the third one, the intellect is gone. You just have to go through it. And that's what happens, right? So, wrongdoing, there's a question here. Wrongdoing happens because intelligence is not functioning. That's right. That's what happens. Our desire overpowers that knowledge, so to say. So, and that's only our fault, right? All these things are iha, they're here, iha in that previous verse, iha means here. They're here in our mind. They're not anywhere else. And so this is one way to look at it. Now here, the next one is also to look at it in terms of prarabdha. To look at it in terms of prarabdha. So one is that there are some, and prarabdha is, the expression of joy and sorrow in our lives, the expression of sukha and dukkha in our lives. Things that come into our lives as that give us joy or sorrow are a result of our prarabdha karma. But also certain thoughts that come into our mind are also a result of our prarabdha karma, because we have been engaging, we have been doing these certain tasks or living a certain way. So they also come as a result of that. And so what happens is there are some of these desires that are like smoke covering a fire, which are easy to let go of. You just blow, when smoke's covering a fire, you just blow and it will go. So something comes to my mind. I know I shouldn't desire it. I know I shouldn't want it. So just take that thought away. Think of something else. Just refocus your mind. And it's like a smoke. You can just blow. So one level is like that. But sometimes desires come like the dust on the mirror. Sometimes that blowing is not enough. With the dust, when there's dust in the mirror, there's just much more effort. You can't just blow. You'll be blowing forever. You have to take a napkin. You have to spray some vinegar and water on it, and you have to clean it, and you have to wipe it down till it's crystal clear. So sometimes that desire comes and we have to put forth effort to get it out of our system. We have to keep ourselves engaged in satsang or engaged in study. In the smoke covering a fire, maybe even just the name of God is enough. The name of God is always enough. But if we're not calling God in that deep way, then it won't be enough. And that's not the name of God. That's because our purity. That's because of our purity. So the name of God sometimes will take it away, or in the beginning, the smoke with the fire. Name of God will take it away. A mantra will take it away. Seeing someone's picture, Guru's picture, Bhagavad's picture will take it away. But when it comes to the dust covering the mirror, that needs satsang. That needs satsang. That needs company. That needs bhajan, kirtan, stotram, chanting, karma yoga, all kinds of things. It needs all of those things because it's got a hold now in the mind. And then even deeper, so first is that, manda prarabdha, very light. The second is madhyama. Then when there's tivra prarabdha, one just has to go through it. You just have to go through it because that person cannot put forth effort to get rid of the desire. It's so incredibly strong that even if the person wants to put forth effort, they cannot. They're helplessly pulled by it. And so they just have to wait. They just have to wait. And just like in time, that fetus will now, come out of its womb. So too, that desire will come out and it will have to be experienced. It will have to come out. It will have to be experienced. There is just no other way around that. And so these are these expressions of desire. There's one more way of looking at it, but that we will see next week. So I will need time to also explain that part. So today, what have we seen? I'll just recap in a few minutes that I have. Arjuna is saying, Lord Krishna said, don't get swayed by these likes and dislikes. And Arjuna understands that, but he says, is there something deeper than likes and dislikes? Because I find that even if I don't want to do something wrong, I am pulled. I'm helplessly pulled in that direction. What is that force? And Bhagavan Krishna says, Kama esha, Krodha esha. It is desire, it is anger. And mind you, that desire is nothing but that raga, that like became want. And so that is called desire. And that desire is also called anger, because if something obstructs the desire, it is anger. And so the raga turns into kama and the dvesha turns into krodha, because when I don't like something and it happens to me, I get angry. And when you get this, you get all of the six gangsters, you get all of them together. You get desire, you get greed and pride, and you get anger, and we get jealousy and delusion. We get all of these things. And is there, can I negotiate with desire? Can I just go through it and just enjoy a little bit of it? Can I do something here? Bhagavan Krishna says, nope. Vairina, it's an enemy. You've got to defeat it. And how so? We saw that it expresses like smoke covering fire, dust covering the mirror, and like that womb covering the fetus. This is how desire expresses. And next week we will look a little bit deeper into this. Okay? So we'll say the closing prayer and then we'll take questions. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay.